Hey everyone, Dr. Eric here from ADIO Chiropractic. Thank you so much for joining me on this webinar for our teens. And maybe you are a teen joining us, and I hope this connects with you because this is a topic that is dear to my heart because I struggled with this myself. And this is why I love helping teenagers with these two things, and that is anxiety and depression. So we know that I know this can really just be a difficult topic to address, but shedding light on this topic can have a positive ripple effect, not only in our teens, but in our community. So in today's world, so much is at risk with mental illness and societal problems, like bullying, shootings, suicides, and the list keeps on going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the different types of stressors, the physical, chemical, and emotional stressors and that are in our teens. And then I'm going to walk through and talk through the specific, specific presentations of anxiety and depression in our teens. So first, let's just look at anxiety and depression. And let's first start with anxiety. So anxiety is this general term for disorders that cause nervousness, fear, apprehension, worry, and those affect how we feel and how we behave and can have physical symptoms as well. And anxiety is this safety mechanism of our body to respond to this fight and flight response, this protective mode that helps keep us safe. Now, anxiety is not a mechanism problem. It is a perception to danger problem. The state of protection, this fight and flight response is just at the wrong time, and to something that would just not normally elicit this sympathetic response because the body can't regulate and can't control. So the stress is stuck on in these kiddos. And then we get to depression, and depression is this mental health disorder characterized by persistently depressed mood, or loss of interest in activities, causes significant impairment in daily life. And oftentimes we find that this sets in later in our teens than anxiety does. So there is this high stress for so long that they can no longer keep up with that high energy, and we see that their systems just shut down. So typically for these high energy kiddos, fast-paced kiddos, they can't sustain that for long. So around 16, 17 years of age, they just hit this low energy and they start plummeting. So let's talk about the causes of stress in our teens. So first, let's talk about physical stresses. So physical stresses, posture, to text neck, right? Always on our phones, to the growth spurts. Even though they're positive, they need to go through them, it's still a physical stress here. We got computer screens, homework, lack of activity, which then weakens our core stability in our teens. Video games. Our kids are on technology and video games so much nowadays compared to 15, 20 years ago. The second biggest thing is, and really honestly I think it's the biggest thing, is the emotional piece. We have peer pressure, we have social media standards, right? Bullying, relationships, friendships, time management skills, testing, college prep, all of these things, decision consequences, and then trying to balance school and work and then extracurricular activities. And it's a full-time job. And it gets overwhelming for a teenager that can't process all of that information. And then we get into the chemical stress, the junk food, other substances that they're drinking, the sugary drinks, the toxic makeup and soaps, poor nutrition, not eating maybe, not having that much, and then when they do, they eat like crap pretty much. So it becomes a problem. So let's get into the presentation of teen anxiety. So when our teens are stressed, they tend to have more avoidance. They tend to shut down because of this fight and flight response. But then we have we have these high energy overachievers that have this possible substance abuse to keep up with demands. They need to constantly, maybe they're taking Adderall or Ritalin or some other type of substance to keep them motivated and through that. But then they're exhausted all the time. They're sleepy. They have this constant maybe sickness because when they're in this fight and flight response, the immune system gets suppressed, and the immune system can't fight the way that it should. So they're constantly getting sick. They're not opening up and draining the way that they should. They tend to have these blow-ups and explosions of emotional outbursts. Emotionally, they're just really unpredictable. It's all over the place when it comes to this. Low self-esteem, low confidence in these kids. They tend to have more negative self-talk, and they have problems with coping mechanisms. So they tend to have drinking problems, or they're attention seekers with these. And that's kind of the presentation of teen anxiety. But then when we get to teen depression presentation, they tend to be more withdrawn. They're tired, they're fatigued, and there could be overlap between both of these. So don't get me wrong. There could be a combination of both. But again, tired, fatigued, lack of motivation, sleeping past the alarms, missing school, poor performance in school, lack of participation in everything, even school, sports, activities, friends, family, just every aspect of their life gets overwhelming, and they have this low confidence, again, lack of self-worth. They tend to get these suicide thoughts, and maybe they started even attempting that, and that can be stressful as a parent. When you see your kid struggling and knowing that they've attempted to commit suicide. So it gets overwhelming, it gets stressful, not just on the teen, but on the parents also. So lack of coping mechanisms. They have this lack of hope that it's going to get better for them. So they have this mindset that something's going to always happen to them. They're destined to just have this crazy, messed up life. So it becomes crazy for them. Then we get into, so that's kind of more of that presentation of depression. And then, we went over anxiety. So let's talk about, where does chiropractic come in on this? What does chiropractic have to do with teen anxiety and teen depression? Well, first, there's this shift that occurs between them as they grow, right? So kids with high stress, they have no coping mechanisms. They have no awareness of stress. And then we get to teens with high stress, and they have more awareness of the stress, but they have immature coping mechanisms, which lead to unhealthy habits in these teens. And then we got adults with high stress, right? Because what adult doesn't have high stress? We have the awareness, and we have more mature coping mechanisms, but it still leads to unhealthy habits. But the problem is, it leads to unhealthy habits, but they're accepted in our society. These habits that adults are facing and dealing with are looked at as almost a normal thing in society, and that becomes a problem. So what chiropractic does is chiropractic helps to lower the stress on our systems, on our nervous systems, and gets them out of this stress response that they're stuck in. And it helps to break this cycle, because what chiropractic is doing is it's stimulating the opposite of the sympathetic response, and that is our parasympathetic response. That is our fight, or our parasympathetic is our rest and digest. This is where calming occurs. This is where digestion occurs. This is where our immune system lives. This is where growth and development occur. This is where we should be. And that's what chiropractic helps to initiate, is it helps to stimulate more of the parasympathetic, which helps to calm us out of this sympathetic fight and flight response. So what that does is it increases self-awareness in us and in our teens. It helps them to recognize stressors and make more rational decisions to avoid those stressors. Because the thing is most likely our stressors aren't leaving. Our stressors are always going to be in our world. But what can we do to better adapt and better equip our bodies to respond to those stressors that aren't going anywhere? What chiropractic also does, it helps with organization of coping and adapting to stress. So we get different results. When we can adapt better and differently to our stresses, we can result and respond differently, which is awesome. And I love to see that in my teens that come in with anxiety and depression. Is just their life is flipped for the better. Now, if this sounds like your teen, please join us. Contact our office by phone, by direct message, by email, or just whatever one works best for you, because we're here to support your teen, but we're here to help your teen be more supported through this time and help get them through this, so that they don't have this constant struggle and constant worry, which then increases your struggle and your worry as a parent, because none of us parents want to watch our kids struggle. And that's the hardest thing that we have to go through. But it doesn't have to be that way. Teen anxiety and depression doesn't have to be a normal thing like our society has done already. They've normalized anxiety and depression in our teens, and it doesn't have to be that way. Why does anxiety and depression have to be just a stepping stone in our kids and our teenagers' lives? It doesn't. And what can we do to kick that cycle? Chiropractic can help that by helping again to calm down that help calm down that sympathetic response by stimulating more of our parasympathetic response, giving them a better ability to adapt again. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope this connected some dots, gave you more answers and action steps that you can take as a parent and maybe as a teenager yourself. So again, we're here to support you guys. If you have any questions, just post them down in the comment section or direct message us. We're here for you guys, and have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.